Hi, my name is Jamie Graham, and I am going to be talking about my cognitive activity plan that I did with 16 plus month toddlers. The activity that I chose to do actually involved a rainbow set of crayons. So all of the colors of the rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and I threw pink in there as well just to see which of the colors that the kids could recognize. And it would start off as saying all the colors of the rainbow and having the kids repeat them to me. And then we would go through and remove a crayon to see if they could remember the placement of the color and were able to say it back to me as more of like a memory game. So in my activity plan, I had put in that I was going to do sets for each of the kids. But when I went into the classroom and was looking at the number of students that I had versus the number of teachers, we actually decided that it would be better to just do a single set and have everybody sit in a circle around me, and then we would do it as a group. So we actually sat down, did basically like what we call circle time, where I had all of the kids sit around me, or at least sit in front of me so that they could see the crayons, and I held them up like this. And I would do like a pull out of the crayon, and I would hold it up and have them say the name. And if they did not know what the name was, then I would say it for them and then have them repeat it. And I did that 3 to 4 different times just so that the kids could learn all the names if they were not quite yet familiar with them. Because we did have some kids who are younger in the 16 plus month range, they don't really know how to communicate colors yet. So we would like use more of the older kids. We did have some who are 2 years old and 3 years old, and they are starting to get the concept of what colors are and are able to actually say the names. So this is definitely more of an older range than what I had originally anticipated, which is fine. It was a learning experience for me. There were a lot of things within this activity that I definitely could have done better. And looking back at it now, I might have overestimated what I was capable of doing with a full toddler group. So what we did is, again, sat down, pointed to each of the crayons, had them say the colors. I would do one at a time at first just to see how they were able to go about it. And then I would slowly work my way up to 2. And I think I did a pull out of one color about 6 times. So I was at least able to go through each of the different colors, or most of them. And then I would pull out 2 different colors to see if any of the children were able to recognize which colors were gone. There was only about 2 or 3 who were able to tell me the 2 colors instead of just the one. Vast majority of them were able to tell me the one color that I had removed from the group. So it did show to me that there were still a lot of the kids who did know what the colors were and were able to recognize when one of the colors was missing. And in the older group, that showed me that a lot more of them were able to see when 2 colors were removed, and they were able to remember which colors were taken from the group as well. So it definitely shows like the difference in age ranges and how we're able to adapt to each of the ages with one specific activity. So this was definitely more of like object permanence as well, to see if they could like remember something that isn't there. And the 3-year-olds and maybe some of the 2.5-year-olds were able to show that they knew what the object permanence was, that something is still there even though it's not visible. So we decided that the skill set for this would be to provide linguistic appropriate labels for attributes and concepts that children encounter to build their understanding of basic concepts such as color, shape, size, sound, letters, numbers, and feelings. So we were able to color the colors by going through each one of the colors, the shape with the crayons. I did larger crayons. They were thicker, so the children were able to grasp them and feel them. We counted each of the colors so that they knew how many were there. And again, with grabbing the crayon, they were able to feel the waxiness of the crayon, feel how thick it was, how long it was. Really go through all of the senses except for putting it in our mouth. That was the big goal, was that none of the kids were going to eat the crayons. For toddlers, beginning at 18 months, plan experiences that introduce information across a wide variety of areas, including early math and science concepts such as counting, sorting, and matching, understanding quantities, finding patterns, and exploring states of matter such as liquid and solid. So this is one where we were going more of like the basics route, where we were just understanding what colors were with the younger children so that they could start to get a grasp of the concept of colors, start to understand counting, really feel what the crayons felt like, just introducing this to them so that they could learn from a building block per se. And this was, again, where we started showing them what object permanence was by removing a crayon. The others were yelling out the color that was taken away, and they were starting to understand, like, yes, this is still part of the group, even though I cannot see it. What I would definitely say was a challenge was trying to get all of the kids to sit down within the circle and really focus on what we were doing. They were still very excited from doing the previous activity since I did them both in the same day. They were also like very wound up from snack time. It was right after afternoon snack, really going through things. Just, they're a very hyper group in general, and using toddlers as more of like a study group can lead to more hyperactivity. So you have to find a way to really gain their focus and gain their attention so that they can like lean in and learn everything that they need to focus on. Another thing that was really a challenge is I started to notice when the children were getting a little bored of the activity and starting to move on in their own way, because when I was holding up the crayons and I was showing individual colors, a couple of the younger ones would actually like take the crayons and then run away from me. So a lot of times I would use that as like an opportunity to say, oh, this child took this crayon, and you know, what color did he take? Trying to use it as part of the activity instead of just it being me like leading the activity, to bring back the attention a little bit more. And then a couple of the older ones started to move in and do the same thing, and I could tell that it was time that we needed to either switch up the way we were approaching it or just say, hey, you know, thanks so much for doing this activity with me. I really appreciate it. And then close it up by having the kids, you know, go off to their normal routine within the classroom. Again, the kids were really, really good with the colors, especially the older ones. They were able to identify what colors were in the rainbow, what colors I had taken away. They were getting really well with noticing multiple colors that were being removed from the group, and were able to, I mean, not even say, but yell out the colors that they knew were either hidden or like sitting next to me. I tried to find somewhere to hide them, but a lot of the kids caught on to where I was putting the crayons that I was hiding. So that also made it very difficult to keep the colors a mystery, because they were just looking at the places that I was putting them. I was very surprised at how many of them were able to catch on when I did multiple takeaways of the colors. There were, there were multiple kids that I had maybe gone in and said to myself, like, oh, these ones are going to do really well with this. I think the basics are going to be like pretty, you know, easy. for some of them. And I did notice that a few of the ones that I had thought were going to be really, really good with this were actually struggling a little bit. And some of the ones that I thought were like a little too young to understand exactly what we were doing were saying a lot of the colors ahead of time. So it just goes to show that like there are some kids who catch on to things a little bit faster than other children, and that's okay. You have to understand what their learning speed is. So we were able to identify which ones were, you know, having trouble or struggling, or just didn't know what the colors were in general because they don't speak, and that's okay. They would point to like different colors and we would say them out loud and try to accommodate to what their needs were. And that was something that is also very challenging when you're working in a group that's various age ranges. When you're working from 16 months to 3 years old, there's going to be very different learning speeds, very different understandings, and you'll start to see the patterns in the older children a lot faster than you will with the younger ones, because they're the ones that know a lot more of the information, but they can also help the younger children start to learn what those are as well. So it's a good and challenging process to be in, which is not a bad thing at all. It just helps us as educators notice where we need to work on and who we need to work with. They were able to learn a lot of the counting, a lot of the colors, more object permanence, especially for the younger ones. This is something that many of the younger kids will start to understand as they get older. But I could tell that this was like a very new experience for a few of the kids. Altogether, I think that the biggest improvement would be to maybe select smaller groups and probably separate by ages. Like maybe do the 3-year-olds at once or the 2-year-olds at once, and then work with the younger ones separate as well, so I can really get a better understanding of not only who gets it, but to really help those groups like work through their colors, and I can adjust my teaching to accommodate that age range. So with the 16 months, you know, I can read off the colors to them. We can count the crayons together. I can let them feel them. We can start to learn like which ones we are taking away and work from there. Whereas the 3-year-olds, we can go through the colors and we can start taking away multiple colors, or we can count multiple sets of crayons going all the way up to 20. We can adjust the learning patterns where we can increase the amount of mediums that we use and adjust to like their more intense learning strategies. I would definitely try to find something that would engage them more as well, to keep them like within the activity, maybe not so much of a free range, like let's sit around in a circle and, you know, say these together. Because I did feel that there was just a lot happening at one time. It became a little more chaotic than probably what it needed to be. And probably stick to the original plan as well, where I was doing sets with the kids, so that I could see if they could like match the ones that I was holding up to what was in front of them. The only thing that I would find challenging with that is maybe like them going off on their own and not really doing the activity with me. Having just one set, it's more of a controlled environment where I can lead the activity, and having multiple sets would maybe set that apart, where it would be more of a struggle to keep everyone engaged, especially with the younger kids. So maybe that would be something that I could do with the older ones, where I sit there and I lead them through the activity where they have multiple sets and we're learning together at the same time. We're handing things off and showing them different colors, and they can pick out of theirs what that color is and try to match it with mine. There would be a lot of different things that I would have to look into, because I feel this one could use a lot of modification with the group that I was working with. and really focus on what would work best for not only me, but for the groups that I lead and, the learning behaviors that we see as a whole. Other than that, it went very, very well. I was very excited about how well the kids did. They were really excited to do another activity with me, and I love how excited they get to see new things within the classroom. So that was my cognitive, and I am very pleased with how it went. So thank you so much.